Okay, so in this video, guys, we're going to discuss how to deal with qualitative data. So, hashtag displaying qualitative data. So all the commands that are going to go along after this is going to be qualitative data information. So the first thing you'll see is in this column typology here. All the typologies are labeled as 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, and 8s. The issue is that's numerical. So the way we can check is if we type in is.factor and then typology, is.factor typology, and then run, it's going to tell us it's false. Now what that means is our program is not reading that as a categorical data. It is reading that column as quantitative because it has numbers. So if we want to turn those numbers to turn numerical data into categorical data, we use factor and then whichever data set you're trying to turn into a categorical data. So we're going to run that command, and then when we hit, now if we, and I apologize, now if I type, let me just show you this real quick. If we go up here and we hit is factor typology, it's still going to say false. Okay, so here's the mistake I made. I factored typology, but I didn't name it. So now if I do, I don't know, let's name it factor typology less than dash, and then we run this. Now if I hit is factor FTYP, the previous line I have named the factored version of typology FTYP. So if I type in is factor FTYP and then I run that, it's now going to say true. So now R is going to read that as qualitative data rather than numerical data. So we can now do things with it. So, for example, if we want to do a bar graph, here's the commands. First off, you must create a frequency table. Okay, and then the frequency table commands goes as such. I'm gonna name it freq tab, so FREQ TAB for frequency table less than dash, and I want to table the FTYP. And now if I type in freq table, I run this, Control R, and then Control R, it now shows me the counts. So 1 through 8, 124 schools were scored as a 1, 107 schools were a 2, 111 scores was a 3, 89 schools was a 4, and so on and so forth. A 1 and a 2 is defined as being a rural school. A 3 and 4 is determined to be a small town school. So instead of doing this and having to deal with this numerical data as confusing as it is, I took the time to do that if statement, as I was talking about in the last video, where I have converted all of these numbers to corresponding words. So I've said if the number in box B2 is less than 3, implying if it's 1 or 2, we classify it as being rural. If it's less than 5, which would include 3 or 4, it's small town. Less than 7, 5 or 6 would be suburban, and then less than 9, 7 and 8 would be considered urban, 0 otherwise. So I don't expect you to do that, but in any case, if I come in here and do frequency table less than dash. I want it to table. Actually, let's do this. Names of DIST-TYP, because I forget what the names were. So I named the typology with words type. So now if I come in here and do frequency table, I'm going to label this one F-tab, less than dash, and I do table type, and then run that command, and then type in F-tab. That's going to allow me to see what I just did. And now it's going to, instead of reading it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I now have it broken down into rural, small town, suburban, urban. Where rural is 231. And guys, up here, 124 and 107 are 1s and 2s. If we type in 124 plus 107, we get 231. 3s and 4s was 111 plus 89. That gives us a total of 200 small town schools. So you can see that it's done the same thing, but now it's made it much easier to read because it's given us the titles. So that's the convenience of doing that in Excel. But anyways, now that we've created a frequency table, we can now create a bar graph. And the command for a bar graph is bar plot, and then whatever you want to use. So you're going to make a bar plot of your frequency table. And then you're going to run that command, and it will draw a bar plot over here on the left. Now, you'll see that suburban got cut off due to the size restriction, but if I stretch out the graph, suburban appears. So nothing was missing in the graph. Now, you can also add titles. So, adding titles to graph. So we would do bar plot. You want to draw a bar graph of the F-tab data, and you want the main title to be school typologies. You want the x-axis labeled, so you do x LAB equals quotation marks. You want the x-axis to be labeled type of school, and you want the y-axis to be labeled, so YLAB to be labeled, let's just name it frequency. And then we close the parentheses, we run that command. We're going to see that we got no issue. We're going to hit run. And we now see that we have the exact same graph, but now we have type of school, frequency, and school typologies being used in the labels. Now we can also go in here and we can add color. So let me do this. I'm going to copy, go down to the next line, paste it, and then you can come in here and you can go the command for color. So let me do this. Hashtag to add color, use this command. So you'll do. Alright, so in the last video, guys, I showed how we could. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to make several videos in one evening. Alright, so we're going to name our. So we're going to go in here. We're going to type in the exact same command, but instead of closing the parentheses, we're going to end it with color equal C, because you want to do a string of colors. And since we have 4 different bars, we need 4 different colors. So we're going to do parentheses to open up our set. We want the first one to be, let me make this bigger so you can see. We want the first one to be, say, red. So the first bar will be red. Then we want the second bar to be blue. Then we want the third bar to be green. And then we want the fourth bar to be yellow. Now if we run this command, Control R, minimize this back down to where we can see what we're doing, and open this up, we now have created a bar graph or a bar graph where the bars are in color. So then you can now go in here and right mouse click, copy as meta file. You could go to, let's say Microsoft Word. Let's say you're doing a science fair project or writing an article for this class. Paste, and now you're able to drop that graph into a Word document. Alright, so that's how we create a bar graph, and everything, probably more than you would ever need to know about creating a bar graph in R. I hope this isn't too overwhelming. Now, let's move on to a relative frequency bar graph. So to do that, we're just going to create a relative frequency table. So we're going to do relative frequency, that's what we're going to name it, less than dash, and we're going to take the frequency table that we previously covered, and we're going to divide it by n. Now when we type in divide by n, remember n represents how many things are in our data set, and then we hit Control R, it's going to tell us that n is not found. So n is our sample size. So if we do length of typology, we'll see that it tells us there's 609 typologies. So now we're going to come in here and n equals number of data points. So we're going to come in here and instead of typing this command in, we're going to do relative frequency less than dash f tab divided by 609 for this one. And then we're going to do Control R. That's going to, and then so if I type in relative, so if we go down to the next one and type in relative frequency, RELFREQ, and then run that command, it will now give us the relative frequencies of all of these school districts. Okay, so rural was 231 out of 609. So if I do 231 divided by 609, I get 0.3793103, which is right here. Small town was 200 out of 609. So if I type that in, I get 0.328400722. So it does all of these commands for you rather than you having to actually do them manually. So now that we've created the relative frequency, we can just do bar plot of relative frequency and then Control R, and now it's going to create a very similar bar graph, but over here on the y-axis, instead of having frequency, we have relative frequency, where we can see that we have 10%, 20%, 30% on our y-axis. And then if you want to go in and add labels, where you can type in type of school, relative frequency, school typologies, add color, you would just do the exact same command up here. So what we can actually do is we can just go up here we can, bear with me just a second, we can go up to here and just copy this entire thing. If I can get the computer to work with me, copy this entire string of code rather than typing it again. Bear with me, my mouse is not wanting to work. Copy, come down here, Control V, and then instead of doing bar plot of frequency tab, we're going to do bar tab of relative frequency, and instead of our y-axis being frequency, our y-axis is now going to be relative frequency, and then we can hit Control R. Open it up, and we can see now we have that exact same graph that we had earlier, but now with relative frequency. So then we could copy, we could go over here, and we could drop it in. We want to make it to where it is behind text, where we can drag it around. And then now we can see that we've got the school typologies with relative frequency and the school typologies with the count, the frequency count. So that's how we do bar plots. Let me check my time, guys. Alright, so the video is running a little long today, but we'll go ahead and just do one more thing and then we'll call it quits. Okay, so last thing we'll do is, how do we do a pie chart? So we would just type in pi, parentheses, and then we'd go up here, control run. The command for pie chart is pi, and then what you want to make a pie chart of. And then if you open up the picture, you'll see that we've created a pie chart. Now that's a pretty bland picture of a pie. So there is a three-dimensional pie. So let's create a three-dimensional pie chart. Go to packages, then load, then you're going to download the package Plot.rix, which is just a package that someone has invented, someone has coded, that allows you to do three-dimensional pie graphs on R. So the command is going to be pi 3 with a capital D of ftab, and then if we run this, it's going to say it could not find the function pi3d. That's because we have not loaded the package Plot.rix. So what to do this, we're going to go up here to packages, we're going to go to load package, and we're going to scroll down through the list until we find Plot.rix. Which is not showing up on here. So for that reason, I can't do that in this video because it requires the internet, and I'm not at a station with internet right now. So I will add that to the very next video because that will involve downloading the package. So let me see if I can real quick. Install packages Plot.rix. Okay, so alright, so install packages. I'll talk about that here in just a second, guys. We're going to go down here to USA. The command install.packages Plot.rix is what you will use if you're trying to install a package that's not already in the packages box at the top of the page. So install.packages of whatever package you need, and you always want to use USA California 1. So you'll hit OK. It'll tell you that there's a bunch of warnings, and then you have to library that package. So library Plot.rix, and then okay. So me not having internet is not going to allow me to do this. So we'll stop the video here, and then I will show this how to do this on the next video. Now, as I mentioned earlier, to save redoing all of this, I can just go up here and click save, and now I can exit out of here, and if I open up R again and then go file, open script, desktop, data, all of that coding that we just did appears again. So then I can just run through these commands repetitively with a series of control R's, and it will run through all of this code without me typing it in all again. So once again, just to reiterate the benefit of using R editor versus just R console.